Hey there, Kingsley here. In this video, we're going to talk about the happy wife, happy life, and how that mindset is misguided. Now, this is a phrase that is often used. I'm sure you've heard that and probably use it yourself. I know I have and used to just kind of clung onto that as if it was gospel, happy wife, happy life. And hear this so often, you just kind of believed it and accepted it and not challenged it and see why it could be misguided. And so I know this phrase have been around and a lot of husbands have adhered to it or have just casually said it, happy wife, happy life. And so they'll make that somehow, some use it in sarcasm and some just kind of use it as, I better make my wife happy or I won't have a happy life. Now, however, I believe that this mentality, this mindset is misguided at the very least and can actually lead to an unhealthy marriage. Now, as we get started on this, I want to pose 3 questions to you. The first question is this: what do you think are some of the potential negative consequences of this mindset, happy wife, happy life? Second question: do you think it is fair or accurate? Is a fair or accurate representation of a healthy marriage? Third question: do you think it's a good or a bad idea to put the responsibility for a happy marriage solely on the shoulders of the wife? Now, some people might object, and hopefully you're not one of those, to the idea that happy wife, happy life mindset is misguided. They may object and just say, come on, Kingsley, it's a harmless joke. And come on, just get past that. Or that is just a way of saying that husbands should be attentive to their wives' needs. And you know what? I agree. They should be attentive. A husband should be attentive to his wife's needs. But should she also be attentive to his needs? Well, we want to grapple with some of those questions as we go through this video. Now, others might object to this idea because of the potential harm to the marriage, which may not seem obvious on the surface, but deep down, they believe it does. Now, I must say, like I said earlier, that I was one that went along with the crowd without giving much thought to what I'll be sharing today. I jumped on the bandwagon like many do because it was cool and a cliche that's saying, otherwise, if you didn't do that, if you didn't say happy wife, happy life and agree with the crowd, you are a jerk. And in some circles, you are a jerk. You're just like, out there. So who wanted to take that risk, right? But as I've stepped back and wanted to challenge the status quo and disrupt, like I said, the accepted norm as a contrarian as I can be, I realized I needed to change my stance and that I had to rethink this whole thing. And even so, as I'm sharing this with you today. Now, here are 3 objections, like I mentioned, that people may have and why I've done a 180. I've done a 180 on this happier wife, happier life ideology. Here's why. First, it puts the responsibility for a happy marriage solely on the shoulders of the wife. Now, if you think about it, happy wife, happy life. So if she's not happy, that means the life of the marriage is not. So who is responsible? Now, the husband is responsible to make her happy. And if she's not happy, then the marriage is not happy, right? You see how kind of it gets kind of muddy and we'll talk more. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. But this idea, it can lead to resentment and frustration, as a wife may feel that she is always having to carry the weight of the relationship because it's all about making her happy. And she feels like he's thinking all that, I got to make her happy. I got to make her happy. I got to make her happy. If I don't make her happy, my marriage, my life will not be happy. Imagine that. Second, the happier wife, happy life mindset, it implies that the husband's happiness is not important, right? It's not important. And it's really not so, right? Now, this can lead to the husband feeling like his needs and wants are not being met, which can also lead to resentment and frustration. Would you agree with any of that so far? If you agree with anything I've just said, I would love for you to try to comment right down below so I can know that I'm not alone on this, or maybe that I'm not out there by myself. Now, third, it creates a power imbalance in the relationship. Now, when the wife is seen to be the gatekeeper of happiness, then the husband may feel like he has to basically, like I said earlier, walk in eggshells or constantly be thinking about how he can make his wife happy, because he don't want to upset her. Because if it upsets her, then she'd be unhappy. And if she's unhappy, then the life is unhappy. Marriage is unhappy. Now, this can lead to a lack of communication, I believe, and intimacy, which ultimately damage the relationship. Again, if you agree or you're nodding your head that I can't see, go ahead and leave a comment below so I can hear your thoughts on this. Now, by the way, if you're new to this channel and wondering who am I to be speaking on topics like this one, let me just say that I'm Kingsley Grant, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified relationship coach. And I have helped married Christian professionals who are struggling in their marriage strengthen their intimacy, deepen their connection, honor God, and ultimately have a happier marriage. Now, having counseled and coached hundreds and hundreds of couples over the last several years, and having been married for myself for almost 4 decades, I think I'm more than qualified, wouldn't you say, to talk about topics like this one? And I do so with confidence, and I hope you'll appreciate me sharing from both a personal and a professional perspective. Now, let me recommend also that you listen to my podcast that I have, the Happier Marriage Secrets podcast, where you can find at happiermarriagesecrets.com/podcast. And you can access to 50. I've done 50 episodes so far as of this recording, and I've done on different topics that are all not on my YouTube channel. I have topics on my podcast that are not on my YouTube channel, and on my YouTube channel that are not on my podcast. I mix it up because I find that my podcast, I can be a bit longer than I do here. It's easy. So you might have been living by and operating by this happy wife, happy life mindset. So even asking you or proposing the idea of challenging that today, as you listen to this, you might be having a hard time with it. It may have come at a shock. It may have like, wait a minute, misguided? What is he talking about? How can this be misguided? Right? Okay, hang in there, hang in there. Don't get too upset. Hang in there. We're going to get there. Now, I believe by changing your mind and challenging sometimes the status quo, because we have just accepted things because it's always been that way. If it's not broken, why fix it kind of mentality, right? No. Okay, so I believe we need to challenge that. And one of the most important things we can do for our marriages is to truly operate differently. Now, when we change our mindset, we can create, I believe, a more equal and balanced relationship, marriage. And what that does, it leads to a happier, healthier marriage for everyone, right? Husband and wife, and the children would also benefit from that as well. Now, there are some benefits to dismantling this happier wife, happier life mindset to a more productive one. And I want to propose and suggest a productive mindset that I want to introduce here, and that is happy spouse, happier house. Happy spouse, happier house. Now, here are 3 benefits. First, when you change that mindset, it can lead to improved communication. When both partners feel like their needs and wants are important and they're being met, they're more likely to open up, right? Wouldn't you say? And be more honest with each other, and which leads to a deeper understanding and connection between the spouses. Second benefit, it can also reduce stress on the relationship and on each person who think they have to be the one upholding the relationship in some way or the other. But when both partners feel like they're contributing equally to the relationship, what happens? They're less likely, I believe, to feel overwhelmed or stressed, which leads to a more relaxed and enjoyable marriage. And third, it can lead to increased intimacy. When you and your spouse feel like you're loved and respected equally, you're more likely to be physically and emotionally intimate with each other. And so this leads to a more fulfilling and satisfying marriage. Wouldn't you say? I'd love to hear from you. Make sure you're following, make sure you're commenting below. Let me hear your thoughts on this. Let's keep this going. That's your amen kind of corner when you put something down there. Even put amen or 100%, something like that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what it is I'm sharing so far. Now, before I share with you how to shift your mindset from happier wife, happier life to happier spouse, happier house, and also share with you a story of Sarah and John, I want to ask you to do 3 quick things, right? 3 quick things. Here we go. Here, ready? Here we go. 1, smash the subscribe button. Go ahead. Smash that subscribe button below. Number 2, hit that like button if you're liking so far what you've heard. And number 3, click on that notification bell and you'll be notified of all new releases that is happening here on this channel. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it. Imagine missing this one today. Now, by the way, if your marriage is at a place where you love to get is struggling or you think it could do better, and you're trying to wonder where engage where your marriage might be, let me help you with that. I've created a quiz or an assessment, very 11 questions, less than 90 seconds. You can take the quiz and get a score and then get a downloadable PDF that tells you what the score means and what your relationship may need to take to the next level. So if you're interested in that, go to happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz, happiermarriagesecrets.com/quiz, and access that and see where your marriage is right now. So how do you begin to shift your mindset from happier wife, happier life, which I believe is very misguided, as I mentioned before, and I can't emphasize that enough, it's misguided, to a happier spouse, happier house? I think that's more balanced, I think, right? Wouldn't you say? Now, I want to begin with the story of Sarah and John. And I mentioned these are fictional characters, but they represent what I believe many couples, including you possibly, maybe it represent that your issues or your relationship. Now, Sarah and John, they've been married for 10 years. They have 2 kids. They had a good life, or they have a good life, and they weren't happy. Right. So you could say they have a good life, but just not a happy one. And Sarah was always stressed and overwhelmed. And John was always feeling like he wasn't good enough. He couldn't do good enough. And one day John heard a joke that said, happy wife means a happy life. Oh, boy, he heard that. And he took it very seriously. He thought it was funny. But after he thought more about it, he said, you know what? Maybe that's what our marriage is missing. And he started to believe if he could just make Sarah happy, then everything would be okay. So John started trying harder to please Sarah. He did all the things he thought she wanted him to do. He cooked her dinner, took out the trash, he even started going to church with her. But Sarah still wasn't happy. I mean, she was still stressed and overwhelmed, and she still felt like John wasn't good enough or doing enough. One day, John finally realized that the happy wife, happy life mentality was truly misguided. It wasn't working. He realized that he could not make Sarah happy no matter what he did. Only she could make herself happy. He recognized that. And Sarah was surprised, but she was also relieved. She had been feeling guilty for not being happy as much as John was trying. And she was finally glad that John understood that it's not him necessarily who needs to make her happy. She also had to come to that realization herself. Okay. With that story, let me ask you 2 questions. Can you relate to Sarah and John's story? Do you see yourself in any of those characters? Have you ever felt like your needs and happiness were overshadowed in your marriage? Okay. So hang to those questions, and I want to go through Sarah again and John and ask a question. How could they shift the mindset from happy wife, happy life to happy house? I mean, happy spouse, happy house. And how could you do the same? Now, here are 3 that I would believe practical ways, things that you could implement that the Bible also teaches as well in your relationship to make it a happy spouse, happy house. right? Number one, cultivate open and honest communication. I talk a lot about this open communication. I call it empathic communication. And you want to regularly check in with each other, express your needs and desires, and actively, right? Actively listen to your spouse's perspective. You know, I love what the Bible said in Ephesians 4. It reminds us, verse 29, to use our words to build up and encourage one another, right? To build our words to build up and encourage one another. Number two, embrace. So the first thing is cultivate open and honest connection. Number two, embrace mutual sacrifice and compromise. Now, marriage requires, and I've done an episode on this before, or a video. You may want to go back and look about how I talk about compromising. It's either my video channel here or my podcast. So you want to go back and find it and listen to that. Embrace mutual sacrifice and compromise. Marriage requires sacrifice from both partners. So what you're going to do is seek opportunities to serve and support each other. You're going to finding compromises that honor both individuals, right? It honor the relationship, it honor each person, and each person feel as if they are both equally, you know, they're both equally being their needs being met, they're being attended to. You know, again, the Bible says in Philippians 2, it says, consider others' interest as well as our own. So we are going to consider our spouse's interest as how we would consider our very own interest. So again, embrace mutual sacrifice and compromise. And number three, so the first one was cultivate open and honest communication. Number two, embrace mutual sacrifice and compromise. And number three, build a culture of mutual appreciation and gratitude. Now, celebrating each other's accomplishments is critical. You know, I think it's so important for you and your spouse to truly acknowledge what the other person is doing and is accomplishing in their own personal journey, development, or professional, and speak highly of that and constantly attend to that. So you want to celebrate the accomplishments, their strengths and contributions, and show gratitude for their efforts. You know, I cannot tell you how much how important it is to say thank you to your spouse and show appreciation and not take for granted what he or she does. It's so important, right? Because I think in the Bible teaches about how we should always express gratitude, right, to God, but also to each other. We want to make sure that our relationship, our spouse, know that we are not taking them for granted and what they do is important, and want to make sure we communicate that as strongly and as often as possible. So I believe these three things Sarah and John could have done differently. Sarah and John could cultivate open and honest communication about this whole idea that how John felt and how Sarah felt about this mentality of happy wife, happy life. They could embrace mutual sacrifice and realize it's not just John's responsibility. Sarah is also responsible, and make compromises so that the relationship can win, and they may not get all that what they want, but the relationship get all that it needs. And number three, Sarah and John could begin to build a culture in their marriage of mutual appreciation and gratitude. Those things goes a far way. Now, so I want to kind of wrap things up here by just saying, and I hope you've heard, and I've made the argument strongly that mindset is misguided, right? You can see that, and why you want to shift to possibly more of a happy spouse, happy house. And because what happened, it neglects, happy wife, happy life neglects the equality of making both partner important and focus on each other. So by shifting your perspective towards mutual happiness, what that does, it deepens your emotional connection. It reduces resentment and stress. And what's going to happen is going to experience growth and fulfillment in your marriage. So I want you to embrace the idea of shared happiness, right? Mutual happiness, mutual contribution in your marriage, and then honor God. And then what you're going to find, you're going to create a truly happy life together. So let's shift this mentality, and I hope that you're doing that, and we'll do that as a result of this video today. And if you do think if you're planning to do that, let me hear from you in the comment below. Just to put it on there, you know, I'm shifting, or just put shifting. Let me hear what your thoughts are on this, shifting or 180, something like that. I would love to hear in the comment below this video. Now, remember now, I want you to listen to the Happier Marriage Secrets podcast and get caught up on those episodes, binge listen. You can also go back and watch the shorts here on this video channel. But make sure of all the things you do right now before you wrap things up is go ahead, smash that subscribe button. And if you like what you heard, hit that like button and then click on that notification bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Now, all the links I mentioned will be found in the description below. You can click on that. And with that said, my friend, let's go and make marriages happier again. Until next time, peace out. God bless. And I'll see you on the next broadcast of this channel. Please share with one other spouse. Thank you so much. God bless.